own souls. Whosoever Allah guides, there is no one to lead astray. Whosoever Allah leads astray, there is no one to guide upright. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship in truth except Allah alone. He has no partners and all dominions is His. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His messenger and seal of all the prophets. The brother wanted me to break this part, the talk down into two parts. Basically, my life before I became a Muslim in the music industry, etc. I was born in Newark, New Jersey, to an African American father, a Puerto Rican and Cuban mother. Both of my parents, alhamdulillah, they was converts to the religion of Islam. But at the age of 3, my mother and father, they got murdered in front of me. I was in a house with my 6-month-old brother, and I also had a 4-year-old brother in the house at the time. The people that killed my mother and father was my so-called, one of them was my so-called godfather. In Jahiliyyah, we have godparents. You know, of course, as Muslims, we don't get involved with that. We don't have godparents, etc. But the people that killed my mother and father, they was very close to my family. They used to eat every Sunday. They would go to my grandmother's house. They ate dinner with my grandmother every Sunday. They called my grandmother mother and mommy. They called my father's sisters, their sisters. So they was very close to my family. And after the death of my mother and father, me and my 2 brothers, we moved with my grandparents. She took us in the house. My grandfather and my grandparents took us in the house, and they raised us and they brought us up. Now, both of my grandparents, alhamdulillah, they was good people, man. They treated us real good because they didn't have to take us in. They could have sent us to an orphanage, etc. But they took me and my brothers in, and we was in a household with a lot of other relatives of ours. And my grandparents, they happened to be Christians. So, of course, like I said, my mother and father was converts to the religion of Islam. So, me moving with my grandparents at the age of 3, I had no understanding of the religion of Islam. So my grandparents, the first thing they started to do was force me and my brothers to go to church. They tried to force the religion of Christianity upon me and my brothers. But at a very young age, I came to the point where I knew that this religion wasn't a proper way to worship Allah. This wasn't a religion that teaches you how to worship your Lord correctly. So at an early age, I said, you know what, I'm not going to follow no religion. I can't follow the religion of Christianity. And I also said I cannot follow the religion of Islam because the people that killed my mother and father, they was from a group. It was from a group of individuals called the Nation of Islam. So by me growing up, I thought that the Nation of Islam were Muslims. And so I told myself, if Muslims killed my mother and father, there's no way I could be a Muslim. And I can never follow the religion of Christianity. So therefore, I have no religion. I just believe in God. So for a while, this is how I was living my life. I just believed that there was a God and that was it. So at a young age, I've tried to figure a way to get my family up out of the ghetto, up out of the inner city. So one of the things I turned to was to write rhymes. I started off as poetry. Whatever I would see during the day, I would go into my room and I would write it down in a song. If I would see drug dealing, etc., I would go in my room and I would write a song around it. If I see shooting, fighting, stolen cars, whatever, I started off just writing songs about whatever I seen outside. I also had a childhood friend by the name of Yafeo, who at an early age, me and his birthdays was a couple days apart. So when I was very young, his mother used to come pick me up, and we used to celebrate our birthdays together. Years went past, and I lost contact with Yafeo, aka Gaddafi. I lost contact with him, and I happened to run into his mother, and I asked how was he doing, and she said that he was trying to pursue a career in the music industry, and he lived in Atlanta, Georgia, which is down south. And she said that he lives with his brother, a half brother of his by the name of Tupac Shakur. And she asked me, did I ever hear of Tupac? At this time, Tupac already came out with a couple albums and a couple movies already, so he was known in America. So I said, yeah, I know Pac, and I said, as a matter of fact, I'm trying to pursue a career in the music industry myself. Is there any possible way that we can connect? You can hook me back up in contact with him. And she said, as a matter of fact, they on their way to New York, and when they get to New York, you can go and meet them personally. So a couple months went by, Tupac, or a couple weeks, etc., Tupac and Yafeo, they came to New York. I got on the train because I'm from New Jersey. I went over there, and it was good to run back into an old friend, a childhood friend like Yafeo, and I met Tupac. The first thing Tupac wanted to know, he said, I heard about the life story of your mother, father. I heard that you seen your mother, father get murdered in front of you. Can you please explain the story to me? So I started to tell him the story of the death of my parents, and he started to cry. And I remember he said, man, I really want to try to help you. I'm going to try to get you up out of the hood, and I'm going to try to bring you down to move with me in Atlanta. Now, growing up, I ran into a lot of celebrities. I rapped for a lot of people, and all of them promise you the same thing, that they're going to come back, they're going to get you. So I'm thinking Tupac is saying the same thing, like, I'm going to put you down, I'm going to come back for you. And I thought it was all talk. But eventually, a couple months later, I got a phone call, and I flew to Atlanta, Georgia, and I started to live with Tupac. So how we got the Outlaws together, one day me and Tupac and the rest of the group members, we were sitting in this living room. And this was a time in the rap industry where we had rappers like Wu-Tang Clan, a lot of rappers, they were changing their names, but they was picking names of so-called Italian mafias or so-called Italian gangsters, you know what I mean? If you listen to the Wu-Tang Clan and all of them, they was changing their name to Italian mafia names. So Tupac said, I want to put a group together, but I want to be different than what everybody else is doing. Everybody else want to have gangster names of so-called mafias. He said, I want to put a group together and I want to give y'all names of so-called tyrants or so-called enemies of the West. So he went ahead and gave one of the members, for example, Yafeo, he gave him the name Gaddafi, after the Libyan president Muammar Gaddafi. Another member of the Outlaws, Fatal, he gave him the name Hussein, after Saddam Hussein. Another member he gave Idi Amin, after the Uganda president, and that was Malcolm, he gave the name Idi Amin. Qatari, Tupac gave him the name Castro, after the Fidel Castro. Tupac changed his name to Machiavelli. And for me, he gave me the name Napoleon. And the reason he gave me the name Napoleon, because back in the day, I used to have a very, very fiery temper. I used to lose my temper very quick, and to the point that my African-American side of the family, they always used to blame it on my Puerto Rican side of the family. Whenever I lose my temper, they say, you crazy Puerto Ricans, you just like your mother, she was crazy, you crazy. They blame it on the Puerto Rican side of the family. And my Puerto Rican side of the family, they blame it on the African-American side of the family. But Tupac and the Outlaws, we had an inside joke where they used to say the reason why I had a temper as if I was mad at the world is because of my height. So Tupac used to say, man, you have a temper, you mad at the world because you got the short man complex. And the short man complex is also known as the Napoleonic complex, so that's how I got the name Napoleon. So after he gave us the name, he said, I'm going to call our group the Outlaws. So Tupac was also a member of the Outlaws. A lot of people think that the Outlaws were just me and the rest, Gaddafi, Idi Amin, Young Noble, Fatal, etc. But the Outlaws consisted of us and also Tupac. He was a legal member of the Outlaws. So the first record that I ever performed on, it sold 3 million records. Right after I moved down south with Tupac, the first thing we did is get into the studio. The record came out and sold 3 million records worldwide. But right after that, Tupac, if anybody familiar with Tupac, they remember that it came a time in his life where he got shot in New York City. He got shot 5 times, and he also he got arrested and did about 1.5 years in prison. So then this was the time, right around the time that I moved with him. So when I moved down to Atlanta, we remember Tupac, he took a trip to New York City, and I just remember getting a phone call. I remember getting a phone call, like Tupac just got shot, etc. We just met him. The first thing I said is, oh man, we just met this guy. People were trying to kill him already. This is sad. He's young. And I remember getting a phone call from Tupac in the hospital. And he said, you know, thank God that they didn't take me away from you yet. We're going to put this group together and move forward. So, but after the time Tupac got shot in the elevator, he got robbed for about $40,000 or $50,000 worth of jewelry, and the people really tried to kill him. And Tupac was very paranoid after that. If anybody was familiar with his music, you would see that he was a very paranoid individual. Even after he got shot from the hospital, the same night after surgery, he checked himself out of the hospital against the doctor's orders. So a lot of people don't know, from the outside looking in, they would say this man seemed crazy, but people was calling the hospital saying they're going to come up there and finish him off. People was calling his friend's cell phone, his fiance's cell phone, saying we're going to come and kill him. So Tupac had all the reasons to be paranoid. So the first thing he did is check himself out of the hospital. Me and the rest of the Outlaws, we flew back to New York and New Jersey just so that we could be around him and be a support for him. Because the same time after he got shot, he was going to do a trial from a woman saying that he did something wrong to her, so he was fighting the trial.